military experts and analysts from Western think tanks were shocked by the news that in the night from Tuesday to Wednesday, on September 10, 2024, Russian troops launched a full-scale offensive in the Kursk direction of the front. At first, many Ukrainian telegram channels and Western analytical centers thought that the reports coming from the front that the Russian army units had begun to attack the flanks of the armed forces of Ukraine in the Kursk region were disinformation related to the fog of war. However, after a couple of hours, reputable war correspondents from both sides and sources in the Ukrainian General Staff confirmed that the Russian army had indeed launched a counteroffensive in the Kursk region. Even though the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation still remains silent about the counteroffensive of Russian troops in the Kursk region, war correspondents continue to report terrible news for the Kyiv regime. So, according to war correspondents, in the first hours of the Russian army's counteroffensive in the Kursk region, Russian troops managed to liberate the settlement of Gordievka, as a result of which the Ukrainian army lost access to the highway, leading from the Sumy region to such settlements as Koronivo and Snagost. Thus, using this factor, the Russian troops managed to deliver a crushing blow to the Ukrainian army's flank in the Koronevsky district, and already in the first hours of the counteroffensive liberated such settlements as Byakovo, Kamarovka, Viktorovka, Nezapnoy, 10 October, and Apanasovka. According to war correspondents, Russian troops are attacking the flanks of the armed forces of Ukraine so professionally, smoothly, and quickly that the Ukrainian army has to surrender captured settlements literally within 60 minutes. The Russian army is also rapidly advancing on the positions of the Ukrainian armed forces in the Sudzansky district, where the Ukrainian High Military Command tried to build defensive lines to hold the occupied territories. Later, war correspondents also confirmed the liberation of the settlement of Snagost by Russian troops, as a result of which the Ukrainian army lost its main logistics hub in the Kursk region. Describing the battle for the settlement of Snagost, war correspondents and even Western military experts admired the courage and professionalism of Russian soldiers. The fact is that the settlement of Snagost is surrounded by water barriers and Russian troops had to cross the Sime River, while under constant attack from the Ukrainian artillery. However, unfortunately for the Ukrainian army, the Russian troops brilliantly coped with their task, transporting dozens of pieces of heavy equipment and thousands of soldiers across the Sime River. By the way, the settlement of Snagost was liberated by paratroopers of the 51st Regiment of the 106th Tula Airborne Division. It is reported that Russian paratroopers so vigorously attacked the enemy positions in Snagost that many Ukrainian soldiers, out of fright and surprise, began to leave their positions en masse and even surrender. This video shows the moment of the surrender of a group of Ukrainian militants in settlement of Snagost. Commenting on what is happening in the Kursk region, even pro-Ukrainian Western military journalists admitted that such a rapid offensive by the Russian army came as a complete surprise to the Ukrainian High Military Command, and finally undermined the morale of Ukrainian soldiers. According to them, the Ukrainian soldiers are in a state of shock. The rapid advance of Russian troops in the Kursk region led to the fact that Ukrainian soldiers began to leave their positions en masse, abandoning not only the dead, but even their wounded comrades. According to the commander of Spetsnaz Akhmat, General Apty Aladanov, after the Russian counterattack began, Russian troops managed to capture several hundred Ukrainian militants in the Kursk region. At the same time, he noted that there are thousands of wounded Ukrainian soldiers in the fields and forests of the Kursk region, who were simply abandoned by their brothers in arms during the retreat. According to him, now these wounded Ukrainian soldiers are slowly dying on Russian soil, while their escaped comrades are sitting in warmth, at a relatively safe distance from the combat contact line. General Anty Aladanov also noted that as of September 12, 2024, Russian soldiers liberated 11 settlements in the Kursk region after the Russian army's counterattack began. Describing the events in the Kursk region, the famous military journalist and expert Yuri Podolyaka did not hide his admiration for the professional actions of the Russian army. According to him, the offensive of Russian troops has become so rapid and lightning fast that Ukrainian commanders are still in a state of shock, continuing to flee even from such a settlement as Lyubimovka, which is the main supply center for the grouping of Ukrainian troops in the Kremennoy area and up to Malaya Lokhnya. According to him, on September 11, 50 armored vehicles of the Ukrainian army left this settlement. Against this backdrop, Yuri Podolyaka expresses confidence that it is precisely the settlement of Lyubimovka that would become the main direction of the next attack by Russian troops. By the way, it is worth noting that it is in this area of the Kursk region where Ukrainian nationalists commit the most war crimes, killing civilians and destroying civilian vehicles. During the interrogation, captured Ukrainian nationalists admitted that the attack on the Kursk region was committed, among other things, for punitive purposes. For example, during interrogation, a captured Ukrainian machine gunner from the 82nd Airborne Assault Brigade admitted that his command had given him the order to shoot a passenger train, to force Russia to declare war on Ukraine. According to him, the Ukrainian command hoped that the Ukrainian army's invasion of the Kursk region and the massacre of civilians would force Russia to declare war on Ukraine, as a result of which the West would have to double financial and military assistance to Kiev. However, now, after the Russian troops launched a counteroffensive and gradually began to liberate settlements in the Kursk region, it became clear that the last hopes of the Kiev regime at least somehow extend its existence were doomed to complete failure. According to military experts from the magazine The American Conservative, despite the deteriorating situation of the Ukrainian army in the Kursk region, the Kiev authorities will never order the withdrawal of the armed forces from this Russian region, because it will be perceived by the West as a defeat for Ukraine. Against this backdrop, American experts are confident that the Ukrainian army will continue to suffer huge losses in manpower and equipment in the Kursk region. The Americans claim that this will continue until the Ukrainian commanders refuse to obey Kiev's orders and begin to leave their positions voluntarily. And judging by what is happening in the Kursk region now, this process has already begun.